Howdy, friends. Looked like our layout wasn't going to cooperate there for a second. Today, obviously, we're talking about House Squatch. We don't want to keep Cody hidden behind that beautiful fucking poster right there, though. Yeah, we're back for another review. Howdy, Schlockaholics. It's good to see you. We're going to be sipping some suds, talking about a fine film right here. It's truly some high art. I believe it is our second time covering a Polonia flick on here, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Second or third, I think.
I know that. We did Splatter Farm and Return to Splatter Farm. So this is our third one. We got Michael McNally in the house, Kristen in the stream. Thanks for coming, man. This should be a fun discussion. There's a lot of fun, a lot of farts to discuss here, and we're gonna try to lay it out for you guys best as possible. I got 3 fucking pages of notes that we're gonna go through here. We're gonna share our favorite characters, favorite scenes, get to all that good stuff. I did purchase a special brew for today's festivities. This is Bat Squatch from Rogue Brewing here in Newport, Oregon. I mispronounced that just for you out-of-staters. This is 6.7 ABV on this guy. I don't know what all that other crap means, but it's got a tropical citrus rating on their little star scale. I like how Rogue does that instead of adding a bunch of fucking equations for you to figure out. It says, for years, rumors have circled the deep in the woods on Mount St. Helens lived the fabled Bat Squatch. While there are many tales of Bat Squatch, they're all but hazy on the details, which makes the truth such a juicy mystery. And I'm not going to read the rest of it. There's quite a bit on there, but that factors into it being a hazy IPA. Beautiful cover art there on the case. They've got a couple of cryptid-inspired brews. Highly recommend the Gumbaroo as well. Which I think is like something from down your neck of the woods, Cody. Some big bear lives out there in those fucking trees. And then they also got one called Colossal Clyde, which is about one of our very own Northwest sea monsters. But we're going to be sipping on this guy and talking about this film. I figured it was only appropriate. You know, there's not a lot of Squatch brews out there that I've ran across in my days. So I have had this before. It's quite tasty. Highly recommend it. Crisp and delicious. So you guys saw the trailer for Bat Squatch there already. House Squatch. This film came out on February 24th, 2022. It was written by Aaron Drake and Mark Polonia, directed by Anthony Polonia and Mark Polonia. It was produced by Ron Bonk and distributed by SRS Cinema. We had cinematography by Paul Allen Steele, music by Ghost, not those painted suckers, but somebody else using the same name, and makeup effects by Royce Collings. Generous of them to give you a credit, Royce, because I think all he did was one arm rip. But I dig it. It's in my notes somewhere in there. It stars Ken Van Zant, Jeff Kirkendall, Tim Hatch, Titus Hemmelberger, Yoli Canales, Jamie Morgan, Michael Koratich, and some dude in a House Squatch costume. I imagine it was maybe even several different people. I don't know. Cody,
several different people. Tim Hatch and Jeff Kirkendall.
Oh yeah, I thought I'd recognize those sultry hips in there, Tim. I dig it. So I guess we'll do first impressions. You know, I'm gonna let Cody go first because this was Cody's selection. So you know obviously this isn't your first time seeing it. What was your first impressions when you did, and why did you select this fine film for us to discuss today, my friend?
It's no secret between us that I'm a big Polonia guy, sometimes to a fault. I know there can't all be, number one picks or anything, but I was excited about this one, and I feel like the trailer kind of tells a different movie than the actual movie you watch, because this movie really lays on the funny, and it's not really showing that in the trailer.
Yeah, it feels like more of a horror film, and it is really barely a horror movie.
But, I loved it. It was great. It was definitely one of the ones where I knew I would watch it again. And I can't say that about all his movies, but this one was, I knew 2 or 3 minutes into it when they pulled the mask out of the trash can and it had Tim Hatch playing the girl, which I haven't seen I didn't do commentary this round, which I'm going to assume they did that because someone didn't show up. So Tim took over it. But I knew when that part happened, I was like, well, this is going to be a fun movie.
Yeah, he makes a hell of a bearded lady. They really need to have him come back and do that more.
And he also hit on himself, so that's even better.
Which is just amazing. So, I mean, obviously you liked it. You know, why did you? Well, I think it's pretty obvious why you probably selected it for the show, because we all enjoy Polonia stuff. Some of us more specific to certain eras, but I guess I'll just jump into mine. I really liked this, dude. This was definitely my first time seeing it. It, alongside the ape stuff, has sold me a lot more on modern day Polonia. A lot of the stuff I was seeing from his camp for a little bit, especially since his brother died, didn't feel like shit that I would be super into, you know? But this has given me maybe a cause to go and give some of those a try that I've skipped out on over the years, you know? I kind of fell off with these dudes after the 90s, really. I mean, I haven't kept up with a lot of their stuff. I've seen one or two things here or there. And two of those things are things we discussed on the show now, like Return to Splatter Farm and this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's given me a lot of hope that amidst some of the cranked out B-movie nonsense, that there is some solid stuff in there. You know, it is a business after all, for the dude, and you know, certain movies got to be made just to pay the rent. But this seems like something they did as a labor of love and just having some fun making a dumb fun movie together. And it really sold me on it. It's got a lot of charm. I wish there was more blood and gore, but we'll get to that later on. What about you, Brandon? What was your general first impressions of the House Squatch, that domesticated samsquamtch?
Actually, I will say that Polonia is one of those that is hit or miss for me. And I was very happy to watch one that had my attention, that I wasn't bored around the middle part of, that I didn't feel like dragged, and was just fun. It brought me back because I'd been on a Polonia spree over the last like month or so, and it's just like one after the other, and I'm like, okay, shark this, shark that, shark this, shark, and which is also there because I really the ones that I really like, and those that I don't like, I'm like, this has some good moments, but
Some of them feel like they exist to have sold the movie to Tubi, you know.
And Ron usually does these things, like where he tells them, okay, here's a movie, write this movie, or there are these things, finds a director to do it, and then crowdfunds, makes a crap ton of money off of it for himself, and and then of course, which is how he's been
get a
doing
$500 movie, you know?
which is like how we get, like, I mean, a lot of directors have been doing this with them. I mean, Evan Jacobs has been throwing in with it. He's not in it for the money, I can say, at least him, because he's got like a lot of other jobs he works. But it's something that's there. But I do feel like this one was one that they definitely had a lot more fun with. I feel like this one did not drag at all, and that's something fun. I like it when it happens, and I think when Polonia gets into a vibe, it really can work. And I think he was really in it this time. So I really liked House Squatch. I had been both looking forward to and dreading watching this, so I'm glad that you grabbed this one out and not say, I don't know, one of the shark movies.
I'm not gonna lie, I was skeptical, maybe even a little scared. You know, I wasn't sure that this was gonna be worth our time. I figured Cody. See, there's the thing. Like, I feel like have you guys done blind watches yet? Where none of us had seen the movie yet, and you submitted them?
So.
I don't think so.
I've been on other podcasts where people have done that, and it's like you never know if the person's actually seen the movie.
I do that for Inside Movies Galore. I have done that for Inside Movies Galore on occasion.
Yeah, and like, sometimes really even they think it sucks, you know? So it's like, I didn't know if this was going to be one of those situations where we showed up here today and we were like, oh, this fucking stonks, bro, and I don't even have anything to say about it, really. But that's not the case. I would venture as far as to say that it maybe even felt like more pure fun was had making this than Return to Splatter Farm, our last Polonia flick that we covered. And that's not to say that Return to Splatter Farm wasn't awesome. I think we all, heaped plenty of praise on it in our review.
Yeah.
But there's an inherent amount of pressure that comes along with something like that. This kind of reminds me, if we're, we were just talking about Seaver before we came on. Like if you watch that, Teen 8 versus the Mutant Nazi Apocalypse or whatever that shit show they did for Trauma was, and then you watch Taint Light afterwards, it's maybe not subject matter that Chris was extra hyped on or came up with himself necessarily, but it's stuff that he had fun doing, and it reflects in the final product. And from what you were saying, it sounds like this might have been one of those ones where Ron just threw out a title and, set them on their way to make the movie. And they just ended up having a blast making it. And you can tell at the end of the day that, everybody involved in this was smiling the whole time they were doing it.
It is weird that I was the only one here that watched the commentary. I expected Cody to have that memorized when he came in.
I did watch it the first time. When I first watched it, I just didn't have the time this time.
It wasn't a very informative commentary overall. It was a lot of rambling for the most part, but it did have a couple of bits that helped, like knowing who was in the costume and that wearing the costume sucked, and that
it looked like it smelled like farts, so it makes a lot of sense. There was so many farts in the movie. Also, hello, Lena. It looks like we got a new viewer today. I've never seen her on the channel before, but I'm assuming that's a woman, but maybe it's a man. You never know. I'm cool with it either way. We're just happy to have you here.
Yeah, according to the commentary, it was Tim Hatch and then it was Jeff Kirkendall when Tim Hatch was on screen.
It definitely smelled like farts in there. Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. You just, when you can tell that the people are having fun, it makes the movie more enjoyable to watch. And then I think there was a lot of care taken in like post-production and things like that to make this movie have a certain vibe to it. That is also a little different than a lot of the other Polonia stuff that I've seen. It feels like it's almost family friendly in a Polonia sort of a way, which is pretty neat. If you took out a couple of the vag jokes or whatever, you could watch this with like a kid and it wouldn't be a problem, which is also pretty neat. Did anybody else, before we start diving into the finer points of this, did anybody else come away with this kind of feeling like the movie would make really good like early December viewing during Christmas time? I mean, there's a little bit of snow in there. It all takes place in like real houses, so it's got this kind of cozy feel through the whole thing. I don't know. There's just something about it.
Family affair.
And that too adds like a wholesomeness to it. The fact that it's, Mark and his son doing it. And it just turned out so fun. I mean, the father and son yucks that were going on during this thing were probably good times just to witness. I'd have loved to have just helped out on this movie. But it is also so simple that I'm not sure that they would have needed a ton of help. I'd have just loved to have been a fly on the wall during it. But I don't know. Did anybody else get that like early Christmas vibe from it, or was that just me?
I mean, you get the early winter time for sure. Yeah. Actually, you got real snow this time instead of the CGI snow.
Oh yeah,
I could see it
real.
Maybe as a January movie or a November movie, something like that.
Or that's why I said early December. It's not exactly the thing you're gonna fire up like Christmas morning, But as you're easing into the Christmas spirit, maybe a November movie. Like as you're easing into the Christmas spirit, I think that there's something about this that lends itself to that a little bit. It's even got a sort of Home Alone-esque soundtrack to it. That's what I put in my notes, is that the music is somewhere between Home Alone and a porno with fun comedic score for the silly scenes, like, where they do like Benny Hill shit or silent movie type stuff. Fits the movie perfectly, would not be the same without it. What is PBE? Peanut butter and eggplant?
Polonia Brothers Entertainment.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know why I was also like, what?
Fuck, dude, in the pit of winter, I might eat that sandwich, Why not? Well, snowed in, so that may be why I associate them with winter and Christmas. I mean, they're.
Yeah.
I could see that a little bit with. I mean, he also did feeders to sleigh bells back in the day, so there's like an intentional
Sister
Christmas thing going.
Krampus.
That
He
too.
did Hell on the Shelf.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of Christmas movies.
Yeah.
Hell on the Shelf was one I really wished. I really wanted to like it. I wanted to like it so bad. It still has one of my favorite covers.
I've never seen it, but we were considering running it at one point when a certain someone we knew was trying to sue the Elf on the Shelf people, and it would have been super funny to review that movie during that time period, but missed opportunity, you know.
I will say one thing about that so that people don't get disappointed. Though they use an Elf on the Shelf on the cover, it is not in the movie.
That's a fucking bummer.
I feel like just like with Cocaine Shark, I think that if you go in it knowing certain things, you'll enjoy it more. Like if you understand Cocaine Shark is not about a shark high on cocaine killing people, then you will be able to have different expectations.
I mean, what's the shark selling cocaine to the people?
Spoiler alert!
How does that factor in though?
It's about a drug made from sharks that has some strange were-shark creature killing.
Oh, so they're snorting the sharks, is what you're saying?
They're freebasing the sharks.
Oh, fuck, dude. Okay. I'm more sold on this the more you talk about it.
But I don't blame Polonia Brothers Entertainment for that. That's that's a Wild Eye issue. The name that they wanted for it was Narco Shark, which would make more sense because it's about like a police officer who's in the who's a narc essentially, and he's trying to uncover the drug ring. And I think that really Wild Eye was like, "Ooh, we need to jump on the Cocaine Bear bandwagon,"
which a lot of people did. I think they were probably the worst offender of it, maybe, but
no, they weren't. Ferguson was the worst on that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. He recut a bunch of old shit to be cocaine stuff, and it's whatever. Cocaine Bear was fun. All right. But interestingly enough, just the other day for the first time, a trailer for it came on when I was watching something, and it was the first time since watching it when it was new where I was like, oh, I'd watch that again. You know, I think at the time we praised it and said it was fun, but I don't think any of us like thought it would be an instant classic or anything, because was kind of a dumb throwaway bear movie. It felt like mainstream people trying to do the kind of shit that we watch all the time, which is fine. Yeah. And I enjoyed it for what it was, but it was just I found it fascinating that it took me like a year to finally sit there and say like, oh, I guess I would watch that again, you know. Like it looks like something, now granted I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it again. If it was like it came on TV or something, you know, or just auto played on a streaming service, I might watch it again.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I get why they tried to capitalize on it because it did have that sort of viral buzz, but I think it's a period we're going to look back on with some regret when it comes to the B-movie stuff.
I still have high hopes for Crackoon.
Crackoon looks fucking awesome.
And Crocodile.
Yeah. I will say the artwork on Crackoon is freaking awesome. So even if the movie's trash, the artwork will stay solid.
Oh, the movie looks like it's trash, but in that good kind of way that
if it's fun enjoy, trash, it's okay. Yeah,
it looks like it's along the lines of like, do you ever see that trauma movie, Coon's Night of Terror? Night of the Bandits of the Night is what the subtitle is. Oh. It's awesome. I got it right here somewhere. It's probably one of my favorite like trauma released movies ever. Maybe it's right up there with Surf Nazis Must Die. It's stupid as fuck, and Crackoon looks like it's very much in the same spirit. I'm still bummed no one made Cocaine Koala. I feel like that was the next logical step after Cocaine Bear. And if you've ever seen a wet koala, they look like they've been freebasing sharks. So that's, you know.
And when we talk about sharks in Polonia, I still feel like sharks aren't entirely separated from the film because it has a very Jaws-like quality to it. I mean, you got a greedy real estate developer who's trying to keep out of sight that this house squatch, who has been here before 10 years ago, has gone through on a killing spree in the neighborhood.
Yep, that's
But wants
in
to
my
keep it
notes,
quiet.
man. It's very much got a Jaws vibe thing going
Well,
on.
also this is from the same studio that did House Shark.
Oh, I forgot about that.
There's your
They
Jaws
actually-
connection. Yeah.
And they have learned in this. I think that with Polonia, they've actually learned, because House Shark was a hilarious film, but it was long.
Yeah, it was.
And this one was not long. So, and I think that tightened everything
71
up.
minutes.
Yeah. Sometimes
Perfect.
you don't need to be 2 hours.
Yeah.
I had somebody tell me once, I'm not going to say who because I want to keep the director's name low, but used to say, we need to make our movies 2 hours to entertain, to give people their money's worth in entertainment. I was like, no, you don't.
Are you fucking kidding me, dude? Most people don't even pay to watch these things.
Getting out.
An hour to 80 minutes is as long as these ever need to be. Your films don't even need to be 2 hours most of the time if they're big budget movies. That's fucking ridiculous. Do you ever try to sit in a movie theater for 2.5, 3 hours and not like leave at some point to go to the bathroom? It's nuts, if I want to watch 7 hours of content, I'll do it on fucking Netflix at home. Sorry, Martin Scorsese. I mean, I want to go see like Killers of the Flower Moon, but I know that I'm not going to be able to make it through that whole movie without having to go to the fucking bathroom, so I'm just going to wait until I can stream it at home.
Filmed in Oklahoma.
We've been saying it for over a year now. 60 to 80 minutes is the sweet spot for Schlock, because if you can do it in less, by all means. I love that Full Moon has adopted this like 45 to 50 minute runtime for a lot of their stuff, because as much as we like it, that's as much as it fucking deserves. This movie did not feel overly long at all. It felt like it did exactly what it needed to do. If you cut out some of the fart stuff, the movie might be about 65 minutes, and that would have probably been a little bit better.
I'm okay with that.
I blacked that out.
I stopped even noticing it after a while, man.
I don't remember it.
I feel like that was something that somebody forced them to put in post or something. I mean, there's really only the one time or twice in the movie where they directly reference farts, and we'll get to those scenes, but I don't feel like it was meant to be layered over the other thing, like those trauma goof tracks that they would do for certain movies, where it's just people farting and saying dumb stuff. So I guess let's jump into the cast, shall we? What do you guys think of the first person on my list is old Sheriff Milligan, played by Ken Van Sant. What do you guys think of that feller? He's quite the specimen.
He's like, most of his characters are like he plays Duke in a lot of movies, which is like more the Rambo types. I mean, he's pretty good at playing either the survivalist or a cop, and he's always one I enjoy.
Yeah, he's fun. Go ahead, Brandon.
No, I'm agreeing. Good.
I especially like that he has those luscious locks like a 1970s country western star. It's such a good feeling, too, the first time that you see that shit and you realize that they're most likely real. I can't swear 100% wigs and hair extensions have came a long way, but I believe they're real in my heart. And I love the way they poke out from underneath his ill-fitting cowboy hat. He seems like a moral dude in terms of his character in this film. He's really just trying to, protect the town, but he's in that Chief Brody situation, like in Jaws, where, he's got the dude that really runs the town, basically limiting what he can do with this situation. I do love that his whole plan for like getting rid of the house squatch is to lure it into the house and blow it the fuck up.
Yep.
Like that. Also feels like a Jaws reference,
Oh yeah.
Smile, you son of a bitch. I also really loved the whole like side angle of how he was Baxter's arm wrestling rival that injured his arm back in the 80s. Such like ridiculous fun, dude. The fact
his
that
arm's still in a sling.
Yeah, I do love that.
He's been milking it all these years. Well, it's just one more prop for that dude to have. I guess we'll talk about, I mean, any other thoughts on Sheriff Milligan? Do you guys, have anything you need to add to that? After that, we got Duncan, played by Jeff Kirkendall, who's always a treat in these. I mean, without exception, he has been a major part of every modern Polonia thing that I've really enjoyed. So I think that there's some science to that. I mean, if Jeff is in there, again, he's got some pretty luscious locks, too. If he's up in the film, I think there's a good chance there's going to be some stuff in there that's watchable, even if it's only his scenes,
I mean, this cast is very classic. Well, not classic Polonia, but this is very, I should say modern Polonia, because
I'd say it's modern classic Polonia, honestly.
Yeah, he's got his cast of players that he sticks with. Shoot, add Kyle in there, and you got pretty much everybody that he uses on a regular basis.
The core people, for sure.
Because he likes to. He's one of those directors, now, of course, I blanked on these guys, but there's
Sherlock, Seaver, where they find the people that work and just roll with them every single time because you know what you're going to get out of them, and it's.
And you've got a good and you've got your solid performances. You can plan it. He's got it done.
Right. I feel like it even goes all the way back to. I'm sure there's other examples, but we mentioned Scorsese earlier, and he kind of had that. Where he would use De Niro a lot and Joe Pesci and other various Italians. Mm-hmm. And, they always added that,
Tarantino did
vibe.
It too.
Tarantino, also did it. Does it. Yeah. It's just, I think there's something to be said about, a good ensemble cast of people or players that you can rely on to fill certain parts that, have the range or the specific personalities to fill those roles. Like Josh Swire is definitely, in my opinion, Chris Seaver's Robert De Niro. The dude has been such an over-the-top character in so many Chris Seaver movies, and ends up being the highlight of every one that he's in, that it's hard not to make the comparison. Other than millions of dollars and a lot of pedigree in filmmaking, there's not much of a difference. So after that, we got Duncan, played by Jeff Kirkendall. We were talking about him a little bit. My notes for him is he enjoys, pruning some succulents. I especially liked that scene in the film. I don't know why. Maybe that's a sign of me getting older and just wanting house plants that me and my girlfriend can actually keep alive. But succulents seem a good option outside of cacti. And he was pruning those things real good. He's a veteran of the Iraqi war in this, where apparently he stole some fucking Planet of the Apes Halo weapon off of the people. He's got a tiny gun that he uses in this, which I feel like we've seen in another Polonia film at least. Cody would be the guy to defer to on those fun facts. He's got good taste in music, obviously. He's listening to some old 50s sort of doo-woppy thing while he's working on his tractor there. He enjoys a good chunky chili, and the beans enjoy making him fart, and he does not want to kill the house squatch, which I think makes him sort of the Richard Dreyfuss character of the movie, even though Richard Dreyfuss gets on board with killing that fucking shark pretty quick in Jaws. But
he gets on board with killing the squatch eventually himself. But yeah, it's I think that Kirkendall is a very interesting actor. I admit he was probably one of my favorite parts of Sharkula and a few other things. Shoot, he'd be an interesting one if they continue to do Death Toilet movies now that Father Dingleberry is passed. He'd be a very good choice. If I'm not sure whether he would work with Evan Jacobs, but you never know. That would be a cool. It'd be cool to see him as a part of the duo there.
I don't know what you could do with that. You can't just recast Father Dingleberry because he's
iconic. I mean, you come up with the second one. Of course, it may be the Doctor in the fifth movie.
Maybe you could do Rabbi Roydstein, or something to make it sound Jewish, but also reference hemorrhoids and have it still have that potty humor thing going. I don't know. I could see him with a little yarmulke on his head. I'm sure people would say that's maybe problematic, but it's B movies, man. Come on. Do you know a real rabbi we can put in there? I don't know. I think we got to keep the faith and the potty humor intact with Death Toilet.
But yeah, I think he'd be a good foil for Mike in that movie.
I think he would too.
But
he's got a very sweet. Is he Canadian, or is he just from one of those states really far north where they pronounce house weird, just like I used to when I was a lad?
I think he's just from up north. I don't think he's Canadian, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. He's got that little bit of an accent, like when he says house squatch. Like he's got that extra pronunciation on there that just reminds me of home. I love Jeff. I mean, I think honestly of modern Polonia players next to Tim Hatch, he's my favorite. He might be my favorite over Tim Hatch just because he's such a big part of the ape stuff. But I feel like Tim's in those too, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, and Tim Hatch is all over he's all over the horror stuff. He's doing a lot of Colazo stuff as of late, if I recall. And he's big in Camp Blood 9, if I remember correctly.
Well, and he's next on the list here. Okay, in terms of his character notes in here, he's sterile, he's kind of kinky, and he enjoys a good bearded lady. Don't we all? He's a deputy and a coroner, which just shows how small this town is and the lack of funds to hire someone else to play the coroner. And he doesn't like Nutri-Grain bars at all. And spoiler alert, neither does the fucking house squatch, which they do sort of taste like dog food. Let's just address the elephant in the room when it comes to the Nutri-Grain bars, okay? They kind of do taste like Soylent Green. You imagine how that tastes, like a synthetic granola bar breakfast thing. But there's something about it that I like. I don't know. I like a Nutri-Grain bar or any of the knockoff ones, but not a lot of people do. I guess I would compare it to the ratio of people that like Fig Newtons and the ratio of people that can't fucking stand Fig Newtons, And I guess I can see both sides of the argument. I'm a Newton fella myself. I love a good Fig Newton, Fig all the Newtons, just put them in my mouth. And I feel the same way about Nutri-Grain bars. But there's just something weird about it. It's like, like there's that synthetic taste to McDonald's, right? Like McDonald's just tastes like McDonald's. It doesn't really taste like anything else. Like you can have a billion other breakfast bars, granola bars, whatever, like billion other sort of bar snacks. Nothing tastes like a Nutri-Grain bar. It's got this strange quality to it. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe it's that same stuff Alex Jones was talking about making the frogs gay. I don't know. Am I a gay frog? I don't know. I've eaten a lot of Nutri-Grain in my day.
Kanye is a gay fish.
It's true. I too like fish sticks. So I guess I'm multi-species levels of gay here. I don't know. What do you guys think about Nutri-Grain bars? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I don't mind Nutri-Grain bars, but yeah, I used to love Fig Newtons when I was a kid. I don't even know that they would still sell them, but if they do,
dude, I just bought a case of Fig Newtons and killed it at my lady's house like not a month ago.
Oh, well.
I'd be careful eating too many figs, though.
I like the other flavored Fig Newtons. Like I like the strawberry ones.
Strawberry is good.
I like the apple when I was there.
Apple's not bad.
But
strawberry would take the cake over apple with me, though. I don't know what it is about apple, man. It's just always, I don't know if too rich is the right word. I like apple as an apple. When I have like apple pie or like even the apple Fig Newtons, they feel a little like too richly sweet for me. So I have a hard time getting behind it. But the strawberry is like a nice fruity middle ground, It's got a bit of that tart to it that apple doesn't have. So I think that's what saves it for me. That's enough about the finer points of Fig Newtons. Tim Hatch also is oddly huggable. And I dare say I would love to see a scene in the movie one day where he gives Cody's little furry ass a piggyback ride all around the place. I think that would be something I would pay good money to see. So if you guys want $1,000 from me on a GoFundMe, write in a scene where Tim Hatch gives Cody a piggyback ride, and you got it. I'll send several paychecks.
I'll have to put a bug in someone's ear next week and see if I can't make that happen.
We can make it work, dude. I just feel like, especially if they could do it like silent movie style where they speed up the frame rate and you guys are just like trucking with you on his back. I think that would be the funniest fucking thing ever.
I wouldn't have to act happy in that scene at all.
So what are your guys' thoughts on Tim Hatch? I ate up a lot of the airtime there. What do you think, Cody?
No, I loved him. Like he's probably easily my top 3 of the modern day Polonia guys, and I mean he's very fittingly got the top billing in this movie because I mean he plays 3 or 4 different characters in it, so it's a very Tim heavy movie, and I'm all for it.
What about you, Brandon?
Oh, I agree. Usually, I like him unless the stuff I've seen him in. He does a pretty decent job. So and I'm curious as to how things are in the future with him. So, if anyone getting in that ape costume, I mean, having a gallivant around in that sweaty thing, because that's what they talked about most of the time was overheating and sweating. Matter of fact, I kind of feel sorry for both him and Kirkendall because they got to slow each other's BO constantly throughout the movie there.
Dude. Yeah, that sounds fucking wretched. So I guess our next character is Baxter, played by Titus Himmelberger. I know we all have some thoughts on this guy. We're going to let you go first, Cody.
That's good.
I've grown to really like him. You can see like some of the few years back him having smaller bit roles, and then like doing stuff with that wasn't his wife at the time, and then now his wife, and they do stuff together. Like they're in Cocaine Shark quite a bit together, and he's one of my favorites. I definitely liked him in this one. I really liked him in, I think it's Jurassic Shark 3, where he was like the old boat captain or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think when he kind of plays like the crazy or just those kind of guys, he's really good at. I liked him in Cocaine Sharks. He does like that noir thing with the voiceover and all that. Like when he just plays those a little eccentric characters, I think is when he really shines.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. I also.
Sorry, boys. Had a pet situation. Go ahead, Brandon.
I also liked him. The character, his character, when I first recognized him fully, when he was in Jurassic Shark 2, and he was my favorite part of that film because that film was okay, but he playing the disgruntled sea captain marina owner was hilarious, and then he came back in the third film and he killed it a second time. So usually the stuff he's in, he definitely has the ability to kick ass when it comes to land in a role. So I very much was happy to see him in this, and I look forward to seeing him used more as things go in the future.
See, I'm not certain, but this might be the first time I've seen him in a Polonia flick. What else has he done?
I don't think he was in Splatter Farm.
He was in Return to Splatter Farm, Amityville in Space, Camp Murder,
Cocaine Shark.
Okay, so I guess I've seen him in a couple of things we've actually covered.
Hamityville Island. Yeah, he's been in a lot. Actually, Deadly Playthings was good. So, yeah.
See, this was the first time he really stuck out to me, but I'm curious to go back and revisit those now and check him out in those. I fucking loved the Baxter character in this movie. I'm sure you guys both knew that I would be real into this guy and his use of many, many ridiculous props. I mean, he's just this sleazy real estate mogul, totally brings those Jaws vibes of like, I don't give a shit, okay? These houses are mine. You're not blowing any of them up to get this house, Squatch. You just keep this under wraps. You get that thing caught or killed and out of the fucking neighborhood. I really love how he was a former arm wrestler who's still butthurt over his loss in the 80s, which could explain why he became such a ruthless real estate mogul. This character almost deserves his own prequel movie, in my opinion. I love that he's got like sweet shades and a fat stogie that he carries around all the time and a dope pimp cane. And at one point he's just wielding a fucking awesome Bowie knife for no reason while he's talking to them at like some conference room table. And, you know, him farting after dying is easily the funniest the farts ever were in the movie. Like, I think if they were going to have farts in this movie, that should have been the scene that they were in. Like the scenes with him when he's doing his Weekend at Bernie's gimmick after he's dead, you know. The rest of the farts just felt like they were tacked on because somebody was self-conscious about the movie not being funny enough. I don't know. I thought it was perfectly yuck worthy and kept me laughing the whole time. So I don't know that we needed farts every like 6 minutes through the whole movie. And then sometimes the farts lasting upwards of 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, come on, you know, farts are funny, but after like 150 farts, it tends to get a bit dry, and you know, you're not looking forward to the next fart as much. I thought the dude was great. I mean, obviously, it felt like he was intentionally reading the lines a little stilted to make the stuff funnier. If anything, it felt like everybody in this was either giving or capable of giving better performances, but they were intentionally making it fun, you know, which shows a certain level of skill that just giving a good performance every time might not, you know. There's lots of great actors in the world, but most of those great actors can't also be funny, you know.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said about that. I really loved him, dude. I think that, you know, much like the score, really, there's no one element in this movie that the movie would be the same without, which you can't say about a lot of movies on this level. I mean, the vast majority of this kind of shit, you could cast anybody in any of the roles and it would probably be fine. Like, it would be the same movie, basically. This is one of those unassuming little fucking micro budget flicks that needed absolutely every element of it to be the movie that it is, you know. And Baxter / you know, Titus Himmelberger is a huge part of that. So
yeah, I think
after that, go ahead. Sorry.
I think we were talking about it while you were gone for a minute, but he's kind of growing into his own on playing a lot of these eccentric characters. I think that would be a very easy way for you to enjoy a lot more of this modern Polonia, just going off of some of the movies where he's just playing like these just off the wall characters, because he's really good at it.
Yeah, you know, if he gets the delivery down a little bit more, I could even see him in a Death Toilet movie. You know, he had that, like, the whole Baxter character almost felt like somebody that would also be a Gwar character, you know, kind of like Potty Mouth or even Father Dingleberry sort of feel like Gwar characters. And I don't know if that's intentional or subconscious on Evan's part, but it's there, you know. And so definitely, you know, obviously this is the first movie I really noticed him in, but I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of him in the future, obviously. Next on my list is Yoli Canalis. She plays Local Woman in the film. You know, she wears fingerless gloves like most transient characters tend to wear. At what point in history did fingerless gloves become the standard for homeless people? Is there a reason for that?
90s, maybe? Because I remember them in the 90s.
Well, I mean, there was fingerless gloves through the 80s and the 90s, but the ones that homeless people wear tend to be those, like, knit ones. I mean, you see it, too, in, like, even, like, Home Alone 2. I believe the pigeon lady's, like, wearing fingerless gloves, maybe. Or I'm just imagining that. But everybody listening to this knows what I'm talking about. They portray, like, transient people with fingerless gloves a lot of the time. And this movie, for some reason, watching her actively, like, pick through the trash piles, which is a gimmick of the movie we'll discuss in a moment, it really made me think, like, is there a practical purpose for why the homeless folks wear the fingerless gloves? Because I feel like I've even seen it in real life. And maybe it is because they go picking, you know?
Maybe you gotta have the tactile feel.
Yeah, and either that or they're trying to make them look weathered and worn. And instead of, like, cutting up some gloves, it's just they've do the fingerless ones, like they've worn out that part of the glove, I guess. But even that doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah, it really doesn't, because I mean, I don't know if I'm more inclined to put some quarters in their cup because his fingertips might be cold, you know. Like, I think just being homeless and hungry will get me there. I don't know if the fingertips is the selling point, but you could be onto something there too, man. I mean, I feel like there's got to be a practical purpose though, and I think Brandon is thinking on the same lines as me. Like, you know, maybe it is because they have to like sort through trash and stuff like that. I'm not trying to make a joke here. This was an honest, like, curious moment of curiosity for me watching the movie. For some reason, when she showed up on screen, it finally dawned on me, like, why you always see homeless people with the fingerless gloves? And I think it's gotta be it, man. I mean, you can't exactly go rifling through the trash and find the valuables and successfully pick them out of all the gross stuff with a pair of fucking mittens on, you know. I don't think you can complete most tasks with a pair of mittens on. You remember having to wear those as a kid? Like actual mittens? Yeah. Fuck, that sucked.
Oh, yeah, that's been a long time. Yeah.
You couldn't hold or pick up anything.
Most of my gloves were
dropping your sled back down the hill halfway up. What's that, Brandon?
I know most of my gloves had fingers, but yeah, I think the fingers help you with the grip. So if you have the fingers cut off, you can grip better. Because I know when you've got gloves with fingers on them, it's really hard to hold on to anything.
Oh, anything. I mean, even like fishing gloves are fingerless. You know, they're specifically made that way because you need that tactile. I mean, how are you going to tie like a fucking loop knot with a pair of mittens on? It doesn't happen.
And like a vest, really, if you protect the center of your hand heat-wise, you still get some protection from the elements because you're still keeping the center.
Yeah, and if we're being real honest, no matter what pair of gloves you wear, all of that gripping on things in the cold and the snow is eventually going to make your fingers numb anyways. So it doesn't really fucking matter that much unless you're like in sub-zero temperatures, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But it was just an observation I had. She's fine. You know, real good arm rip with her in the movie. It's really the only scene of gore, quote unquote, is her getting her arm ripped off, and the way she sells it is so great, where she's like still bitching at the house Squatch for stealing that Swiffer that she's trying to take or whatever, and then she notices the arm and like faints or whatever. It's just good stuff.
Calls him a gorilla.
Yeah, she does call him Magilla Gorilla, which is a cool reference. I guess that brings us to one of the key gimmicks of the movie. Okay, basically, plot is super simple. There's a house Squatch that is taken to this particular house, this abandoned house. This real estate mogul basically owns the town. Real small town. They do, I guess, annual trash pickup thing where everyone puts their trash out. Not sure why that was such a fixture of the movie, but it is. Apparently, it brings in all kinds of drifters to pick through the trash, and random local people to try and steal trash from other people, which I can vouch for. We do an annual trash pickup around here as well. And you will see the local folks, like people that live up the street from you, coming and perusing your pile, you know. But it's never brought in a bunch of transients. What the fuck? There's never been people camping out in any abandoned houses because of it or anything.
And that's what adds to the comedy, is you always want something that's just, that could be in reality, but is slightly absurd, just dialed up. I mean, one of the things that I do for Hamityville webcam is I have Jake and I as roadside trash collectors as our job. And we're supposedly making like 6-figure incomes off of roadside trash collecting.
Honestly, might not even be inaccurate if you're doing it in the right places, you know. You see some crazy shit laid out there on the sidewalk to be picked up that's like brand new, you know. I've definitely taken people's trash before. Not specifically during the annual trash pickup event, but I picked it up. One man's trash is another man's treasure, as they say. After that, we have Jamie Morgan, who's probably the only person on the cast I would say is grossly underused in this movie. I think if you're a fan of any sort of modern Polonia stuff, Jamie Morgan's probably on your radar, and she is a whole lot of fun. There's something adorable about her in a way that I just can't describe, you know what I mean? You know, without going into detail, I don't think that she's I don't think that she's a person that, you know, like on the surface when you first see her, you would just think like she's a chick in a random B movie, but she's got something about her personality, and you know, I've followed her on Facebook and stuff, and she's just a fun lady, you know. So when I see her in these movies, it's rad, you know, and I especially, I mean, they don't do it in this film, but she's also like down to get naked, as we know, and do some sultry stuff. And I think that she does it in a way that's very tasteful for B movie standards, you know, and I think that they always handle it in that way. And there's just, I'm just such a fan of the lady, dude. I mean, she's good. She's solid gold in these things, and she always manages to provide some laughs and some lighthearted vibes. And I mean, like in certain, you know, what was it, Camp Murder, where she plays the wrestler.
She plays
really
one of
liked
the
her in that as well.
She's
She's
the
in that.
villains.
Yeah, I remember you guys talking about that. And she, you know, she's in the fucking Apes movies at least one point.
She's been
Looking
acting
forward.
these things since 2016.
Yeah, so I mean, that's, you know, we're coming on almost like a 10-year or 8-year anniversary for her with that kind of stuff. Better part of a decade, and I'm looking forward to seeing her in more stuff. That's why I was so bummed that in this, she's basically just in there. She promises a striptease that we never get to see. I was really looking forward to seeing her and Tim fucking strip down. You know, I was hoping that he'd be wearing the mask and working that bosom, you know, but we didn't get any of that. It's just kind of promised, and then they're immediately evicted from the fucking house by the house squatch.
I mean, if you really want to break it down, the movie is mostly the Sasquatch with Jeff Kirkendall, the sheriff, and Baxter.
Well, yeah, Jeff and Ken Van Zant are like the two. They're the Riggs and Murtaugh of the movie, really.
And Baxter is kind of the villain that's there. And then, of course, whoever decides to be in the suit at the time for the Squatch.
Well, we're just about to him. Also, I did notice on IMDb, Jamie Morgan's character was listed as Anne, but her name was actually Kara, according to the subtitles on Tubi. So I'm not sure which was true. I think a lot of times IMDb for movies like these are created and updated when the movies aren't even done being made yet. So sometimes character names are inaccurate. I've ran into that before. Then we have the crime scene cleanup technician played by Michael Korostich. He's really just in the movie for a minute, being kind of snivelly and gross, and then the Sasquatch kills him while he's cleaning up the house. I will say that his, you know, the voice that he was using for his character in this movie reminded me a lot of like one of the evil characters you'd see on something like Care Bears or He-Man, or, you know, like any of those shows from back in the day. Like it had a very 80s villain quality to it that I did chuckle at. It's just the problem is nothing the character was saying was funny, and he dies instantly. But he is listed as top cast on IMDb, so there he is. And then that brings us to the house squatch itself, which I guess is the main attraction of this film. What do you guys think of the suit? What do you guys think of the various performances that we get as the house squatch? What are your thoughts on that big old hairy lovable boy?
I thought it looked pretty good. There was I don't remember what movie I'm thinking of, but there was another one they did where it was, the costume looked really bad. So I'm wondering if this was a new one they got to replace that bad one. I can't remember.
Well, they said this was a new costume, that they bought the ape body and the mask separately. And because they had,
you can kind of tell.
They had to trash a lot of the other ape costumes that they used for the ape films. And I mean, just hearing Anthony Poloni talk about how all but one of the feeders' costumes is trashed is kind of sad. But they said basically,
one of you guys that showed me their. Sorry, go ahead.
They get recycled for other costumes or other things. And this one had like an actual mouth that moved, and they were all like happy about that mouth moving.
Did the mouth move?
Yeah, sort of.
He ate that Nutrigrain bar.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, it's not as good as in the 8 movies, but it did move a little bit. I wonder why so many got burnt through for the 8 movies. They really just showed the heads and the hands in those. So that's weird. Was it one of you guys that showed me that they're making replicas of those feeder things now?
No.
Dude, it might have been just a limited thing, but it felt like something that could become a regular thing. They were making replicas of the feeder aliens and selling them for a bit.
I'm intrigued now.
I must have seen it on Facebook or something, but it wasn't even that long ago. It must have been when we were on break. And also, how did I not immediately tell you guys about that?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, really.
I think they were only like $100 too, man. I feel so bad about this. I really fucking dropped the ball. I should have told you guys about that. We all could have feeder aliens in our house right now.
We could.
If they do a limited edition feeder collection for a box set and you don't tell us about it, I might be mad with you then.
Listen, I would definitely tell you guys about that. I don't know. I swear I thought I heard it from it. Where was I doing that? I feel like my memory of it is that I heard it from a person, not on Facebook. And then they showed me photos of like the dude holding one of the like freshly casted, unpainted feeder things. It must have been Corey. I don't know, man, but
I need you to find out.
I'm guessing that's why I didn't tell you guys. Is because my whatever drunk brain I had at the time was like, oh, they told me about it, you know. Because usually you guys are the dudes I'm talking to about B movies, you know. I've only recently started talking to other people again about that stuff, so I'm just making excuses at this point. I really should have made sure you guys knew. I'm sorry. Hopefully they do it again, man. And if any of you guys in the comments know what the fuck I'm talking about, or if I just invented it in some B movie dream, let me know. So good.
I was gonna say to bring it back, they did a consistent job. The people who were in the ape costume did a consistent job of. I mean, you didn't have to do but so much, but they did a consistent job with the ape. It didn't feel like there were multiple people in the suit. You didn't really feel that. And,
yeah. I just assumed it because of the nature of the filmmaking style that it was probably whoever was available.
Like I say,
it had similar body language through the whole thing.
Reminded me a lot of how Psycho Ape did it, and that's not an insult. I actually consider Psycho Ape one of the funniest man in ape suit movies out there. So
I still need to watch it.
My other notes on the house Squatch itself is that it likes houses because it was a pet at some point. Jeff Kirkendall explains that, and that does make some sense. I mean, why would a Sasquatch be trying to live in a house unless it had before, you know? It's very clearly trying to live in the house. It comes in, it kind of looks it over, it makes sure the fridge is stocked. It steals a Swiffer at one point to bring home to like presumably clean the house. I mean,
clean up his footprints.
Yeah, because that craft paper will fucking make a mess. We're going to be talking about that shit soon. But, you know, it attacked previously in 1986. We don't know for certain that that's the same house Squatch that did it. It is revealed at the end that there are indeed other house Squatches, so we have no reason to believe that this is a repeat incident from the same creature. But you know, until the ending, we don't know that, so we're left to assume it. It also farts, and the suit looks shitty in a good way, but also probably smells like farts. That's in my notes. It also doesn't like Nutri-Grain bars, which we talked about earlier. But I think I would agree with what you guys have said. You know, the suit looks shitty, like I said, but in a good way. It looks shitty in that way that kind of makes you chuckle a little bit. You can sort of tell that the head and the suit are different because the suit has those nice leathery nipples, and the head is like this hard molded plastic. It looks like,
there's a piece
or just Yeah, it's a very different composition to what the body is, and the hand, the nips and the hands look very much a different type of rubber. But you see that occasionally with Halloween costumes too. So I wouldn't have, been certain that it was two different fucking pieces put together, but
Might be more
it's
actually. I can't remember, but I do know that the mask is definitely different from the rest of it.
for sure. And I don't know. I thought that the house squatch was fine. I thought that the movie, in a lot of ways, could have existed with any other creature in there, though, because the performances of really Jeff Kirkendall and Ken Van Sant are so fun that it could be any monster. And I love that they both survived, because we could technically get them back chasing a different monster in the same town, I would love it too if they revealed that Baxter wasn't really dead and that he just fainted and farted a lot. Like, I think that would be really cool. And then he could wear a neck brace in the next movie along with the arm sling, because the house squatch like twisted his neck. I think that's fucking brilliant, and you guys are free to use that if you end up watching this review here. But I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, do you think that they could go on as like a paranormal hunting squad of dudes?
I think it'd be cool to do another house movie and just have them do it again, or have another house squatch, but there's other animals also, and just have them just trying to hunt them in another town or something like that.
House squirrel.
Yes.
House squatch versus duplex dingo. I don't know. They could do something.
Ooh, house squatch versus house shark. You've got both of them set up. The house shark and house squatch, they come back and then they gotta fight each other in order to take over a particular house, because they both infest the same house. They both want it, so they gotta fight each other to get it. Dude. And all the people who are trying to live in the house, they're like the collateral damage.
It sucks so fucking hard that Father Dingleberry is dead, because you could have used the House Squatch versus House Shark movie to recreate the proposed ending for Freddy versus Jason. Because the whole ending of it was supposed to be that, like, in the middle of the fight, the Hellraiser chains come in, and then Pinhead steps out, and he's like, "What seems to be the problem, gentlemen?"
Yeah.
So how sick would it be if in the middle of the House Squatch versus House Shark at the end, Father Dingleberry bursts in and interrupts the fight and says, "I've heard there's a problem with the plumbing."
Play like a kind of like a offbeat Exorcist version of the tune in the background.
Dude, maybe him slamming his Bible shut is what like gets their attention, and then it zooms in on him, one of those crazy Evil Dead zooms, and he's like, "I heard there's a problem with the plumb." That fucking would be epic. So
yes.
It's even though of course he's passed, but I would say a house squatch, house shark, and death toilet crossover is not out of sorts, because they all have a connection through Ron.
True enough, dude. Oh man, dude. Okay, what if after he says like I heard? What if with Father Dingleberry in the shot, and he says I heard there's a problem with the plumbing, and then Mike is in the background dumping like salt down a shotgun, and then he just racks it like that'd be fucking awesome, dude. I might stand out of my seat and cheer for some shit like that. So I don't know. I guess that, kind of takes us through the characters. We basically laid out the plot. There's just a house squatch that moved into a house. They're trying to get rid of it. There's basic Jaws vibes going on. Do you guys have any like highlight scenes or things that stuck out to you throughout the film as you were watching it? Any little nuances to the crappiness? Any fun little B-movie things that you happen to notice on it? Turns out your multiple viewings of the film that really spoke to you, that really tickled your taint, if so to speak.
I think one of my favorite lines in it was when they're setting out the dog food for the house squatch. It's like, "How do you know he likes dog food? It says so on the can. Dogs love it, and so do Sasquatches." Like, it's not a Sasquatch, it's a house squatch.
I love the argument over the specific species of the Squatch during the movie because it comes up a couple of different times. They make very certain to let you know that it's not a Bigfoot. You know, it's definitely not a Bigfoot.
I love the part where we've got Tim Hatch in the mask and explaining it, just found it and started wearing it.
Yeah, I love the dumpster diving bearded lady. That's actually in my notes right here. Bearded lady dumpster mask. It's pretty sweet, and I do love that Tim gets to hit on himself. It's probably good for that guy that he's sterile, that particular character in the movie too, if he's hitting on random dumpster ladies that just fucking wear masks for no reason. We definitely know people that would have claimed that mask infringed on their intellectual properties because God forbid someone use a plain white painted fucking female mask. It's not like it's been going on since horror movies of old or Slipknot, but I'm sure you guys that made B movies in the last 10 years have a claim to the white female vacuum form mask that you can buy for like fucking $4 at Spirit Halloween or any store that sells Halloween costumes. I don't know. I like that a lot. It's so random and weird. Another scene that I definitely took note of right away, it was actually the first note that I wrote down, is that helicopter scene at the beginning that's clearly shot inside of a car. And I don't know if this is like this on the physical media release, but on Tubi, they put like blurry shit over Baxter's sunglasses in a couple of different angles so that you can't see the reflection that they're clearly just shooting them sitting in a car. And credit to the editing because they do use the drone footage and whatever stock footage they had of like the helicopter coming in for a landing to make it look fairly convincing in terms of like editing. You know?
And I will say this, for a micro budget filmmaker, getting a drone with 4K capability is a good way to making your film look like it's much more expensive than it really is. Because darn those shots, like even in Out and About the movie 2, where he uses some drone footage at the beginning of that movie, it does look really good.
It adds like, something to it. You know, I've seen fishing videos that do it. I've seen skate videos that do it. You know, I've seen all types of videos that do it. And it really does add like production value or whatever you want to call it to it. Like, even if you know that it's a drone shot, like I did going into this movie, like it's very obviously a drone shot with the helicopter sound put over it. But who fucking cares? You know? I've seen a bunch of helicopter footage in my life too, and it's like that stuff always sort of looks like what drone shots look like now. You know,
I thought it was good that at least this one, like usually a lot of these movies do have like the generic drone shot for no reason. At least this one, they took it to make it look like it was a helicopter and actually showed them in a helicopter. So it kind of made sense to the movie, not just
it didn't feel like it was
filler.
Yeah, it wasn't just plugged in for the production value or whatever. Like it was, what is it called? What's that fancy word smart people say? Endemic to the plot? Like it's part of it, you know? Like they're flying around surveying this dude's badass real estate empire, you know? Which is a lot of houses. I mean, if we're believing that he owns all of them in the context of the movie, it was a good neighborhood. You know, and the houses that they shoot in during the film all look pretty nice, you know, so nice little sort of residential homes. After that, I have the whole question about whether or not the trash pickup event would actually bring in drifters. We already talked about that. The paper Squatch prints are maybe one of my favorite things about the whole movie. The fact that instead of doing any footprints, they just used cut out like paper footprints made me laugh every single time that it was on screen. You know, I mean, am I alone, or is that like it seems like a thing that they did just to save money, but then also seems like it was done to be intentionally funny, you know?
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think it was, and darned if it wasn't hilarious to watch them try and track them as if it was, you know, legitimate footprints and stuff that they were hitting, when it's obvious quite obvious that those are not legitimate at all. So I give it that, because it's an interesting workaround when it probably would have been just as easy to just make big footprints. So I got to give him kudos for that.
Yeah,
What about you, Cody?
I thought it was good.
I
It
gotta
was
blow my
clever,
nose.
and I'm sure a lot of it they did because didn't want to have actual footprints in their house, so that kind of made sense also. But it was good and just meshed well with the rest of the movie. Like if you're gonna go wacky, might as well just go all the way.
Sometimes I think that a lot of B movie makers are a little bit afraid of doing that, and of just because they want to try and put some legitimacy to it. But I think those who really get into it and just accept it for what it is and embrace the camp, so to speak, really do have it shine out.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Had to gargle some chloroseptic and blow my nose. I'm still kind of getting over being sick. So,
I hear you. I've got some stuff going myself.
what's my next note after that? I really liked how what's her ass, Jamie Morgan, had Butterscotch as her stripper name in the film. I thought that was particularly enjoyable. I think she says something like, I forget what the conversation was, but I remember the line being like, oh yeah, Butterscotch got a lot of tips that night. And she's like referring to herself, and it was made me laugh fucking real hard, dude.
Yeah, it was funny.
What else? Oh, the fake fireplace weenie roast is something that fills me not only with holiday joy, but just thick laughter, you know.
Oh yeah.
It's one of the best things I've ever seen, you know, and the fact that they're so into it makes it the best, especially Jamie. That's like really her shining moment in the movie, is selling the fuck out of that fake weenie roast, you know. And you can just obviously tell that the hot dogs aren't cooked at all. They're just sweaty and raw, and
Yeah.
I love every second of it, you know. There needs to be more open air fake fireplace weenie roasts. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was funny, and the fact they kept showing it for what seemed like a long time. Just the commitment to it, knowing that you realize what they're doing. Just like with the footprints, I feel like they just decided to go with it full force.
Well, I have a theory about House Squatch that we are going to discuss when it comes to the production value of it, because I think some of this stuff was not intended to be the way that it is and was not written to be the way that it is. But I do think that, you know, it worked out for the better, added some comedy to it. You know, other notes that I have here is Lexi farts a lot and poops and is killed on a toilet. And that's the bearded masked woman.
Yeah, I think that was
just kind of is lame, you know. I thought the kill could have been cooler or more creative. I get that they were trying to be funny, but that's really my only main gripe about the movie, is that there's not any blood or gore in it, you know, and that's sort of some of the stuff that you come to these sort of movies for. So it would have been cool if they maybe didn't lean so hard into the lighthearted comedy and gave us some like cool, you know, gore pieces at different points, or at least a little bit of blood splatter on a wall or something like that. But again, that'll factor into my theory about the film when we get to the production. But, you know, the pooping kills kind of sucked. One thing about the Lexi kill that I did think was cool was how she was like frozen in this weird, like Tim was like frozen like a mannequin in this weird death thing, and they did that a couple of times in this movie, and I thought that was pretty cool. So
yeah, I think this one was a really good choice. I admit I had been burning out on Polonia, and this was a good refresher, and it really gave me much more optimism about Polonia Brothers films in the future. Whereas I was getting to where okay, another one. Not to say that the ones I watched didn't have their fun sides, because there were pieces of fun to be had in most of those films. But this one actually was all fun, and it brought me right back to some of the ones that I really like that the Polonias did. I mean, like like Splatter Farm, which is still one of my favorite Polonia film, and Return to Splatter Farm, which also showed me that yes, modern Polonia can be just as good as old school Polonia in a lot of ways.
yeah.
So
I think those are the 1-2 punch for me, is Splatter Farm and Return to Splatter Farm.
And there's a lot of cool stuff that they did, so I got to give them that. So it will be fun.
So I really don't have that much more notes left here. I mean, it's just a bunch of stuff that we basically already have talked about. I did like how, when Mulcahy or Tim Hatch flees the Sasquatch at that one point, it's got like that silent movie thing going on where they sped up the speed. We already kind of referenced that earlier, but I did like that a lot. And then there's that point where they're doing like the Sasquatch chase around the kitchen at the end of the movie, and they do like, what is it, like Benny Hill? Isn't that the thing?
Yeah.
I thought that was neat, it just kind of showed some of Polonia's older influences, I guess. I did notice that the house that was supposed to be empty in the film had a fully stocked fridge. In hindsight, the Sasquatch kind of opens it and looks in there and makes sure that it's all in there, so it almost sort of feels like the house Squatch stocked the fridge.
Oh yeah, I think that was actually, it was a nice touch, even though it was a lived-in house, so of course it was going to be stocked, but it worked for the purposes of the film.
Dude, what the fuck are you talking about? Have you ever moved out of a house and left the fridge just full of all your groceries? What?
No, I mean,
who leaves the fridge stocked when you moved out of a house?
Hey, the Squatch was the Squatch actually was living in the house.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
But yeah,
I think in hindsight, I would revise that note, because I mean, the house Squatch literally ripped a lady's arm off to steal like a Swiffer, so it was planning on cleaning the fucking house at some point. So it definitely stocked that refrigerator on its own, which I think is like a funny touch. But as I was watching it, I was like, what the fuck? That's got to be some sort of like, they just shot it without thinking about it. And maybe that is true, but the movie accidentally makes it make sense, which is pretty fun. Obviously, the Sasquatch takes a poop too, because everybody in this fucking movie does. The Baxter neck break during the Sasquatch negotiation is maybe my favorite moment in the whole movie. I love it.
Understood the terms.
Yeah, he comes in there, and honestly, it seemed like he was being heartfelt. Like, I'll do whatever you want. Maybe he was even going to offer to put like a house on some property for the house Squatch in the woods or something, so that it would leave the town alone.
See,
and it just broke his neck.
The only thing that would have made this movie better for me is like have him come home from his long day of work, take his it has like a fedora hat on, he takes it off, sits in front like on the recliner like this, smoking his pipe and enjoying his day.
That would have been great. Opens the newspaper, just puffing on the pipe out of the corner of the mouth.
Of course, that's the sort of thing I remember in something like Psycho Ape, where he's sitting there, he's like barbecuing with the banana.
I love it. That's amazing. So the high-tech gun did look familiar. Is that from the Ape movie? Where do we know that? Why does that look familiar to me? Or is it from like is it like an actual product from some other intellectual property? Because they have this high-tech, like, grenade launcher gun that they bring in at one point.
I know that little one is in Bigfoot versus Zombies. I don't remember if the big one is in that one or not, but I know that little gun that Jeff uses was in that movie.
I sure hope the big one shows up in more movies. Because it was pretty cool.
You know it will. If it hasn't, it will. They love to recycle props until the props are not usable anymore.
That's how you got to do it with that B movie shit, dude.
I mean, look at that shark fin that they use for every shark movie. They've been recycling that forever. Yeah, and that thing looks like it's about to fall apart in the last one I watched with it.
Yeah.
Oh,
another note that I have is Suzuki Equator ? Exclamation point. I've never seen that truck. Is that like a... Why are those not around here? I mean, you only ever see like Fords and Chevys and GMCs and normal truck brands, Dodge. Like, the fuck is a Suzuki Equator?
Good question.
Is there some big draw in Japan for dudes to be living like that F-150 lifestyle? The fuck is that truck about? I thought it was just like a regular Ford F-150 when I first saw it. Or one of those, generic, like, fucking faux hillbilly trucks.
Yeah.
And then it turns out to be a Suzuki Equator. I'm not a car guy, but it was weird to me.
It is.
Like, a Suzuki is not what you think of when you think of big trucks a guy in a fucking cowboy hat would be driving,
Right.
So props to them for putting a weird fucking truck in the movie. And then I guess my last note here before we get into our final thoughts on the last page, color-coded and everything, is Bigfoot alien theory. What do you guys think about that? You think Bigfoot's an alien? If it exists at all?
I think it definitely gives us an opportunity for a crossover movie.
Yeah, I think it could be a cool concept. Actually,
I'm talking about reality, motherfuckers. Like, do you think Bigfoot exists? A. And then B, if you do, or even if you don't, for the sake of argument, do you think it's likely that it's a fucking alien? I'm with... Oh, damn it. Cody, you're in charge of comments from now on.
I'm trying to help.
I always end up hiding them. I think Lena is on the right track here. I fully believe Bigfoot exists. Here's the reality, dude. Bigfoot either exists, which is unfortunately less likely nowadays. I think up until like the 90s, maybe it did. But I think it might be extinct. But it for sure existed at one point, right? Or else there wouldn't be so many native stories about the shit from all across the world. I mean, for sure Bigfoot existed past tense at some point,
I look at Bigfoot as a Schrodinger's cat type situation. Since we haven't truly been able to confirm or deny Bigfoot existing, Bigfoot both exists and does not exist at the same time. But
as far as being an alien, about a lot of things, you know what I mean?
I'd rather look at Bigfoot as more of a like some sort of missing link type critter than an alien. But that's just my opinion.
Because it makes the most sense, the whole Bigfoot teleporting stuff and UFOs being involved. I mean, okay, it would just stand to reason that you'd see more UFOs and Bigfoot in the same areas because it's like remote,
Maybe he came from that world of Time of the Apes where you have the supercomputer with the alien spaceship that is protecting the world, and he just got zapped back and he still has those computer powers.
It could be. I'm not trying to weird science this thing, but yeah, I don't think that Bigfoot's an alien, and I don't think that there's any crazy technology involved. I think species go extinct all the time, dude. Even large species. The what was it? The white rhino just went extinct like 4 years ago. So, I mean, huge animals still go extinct in our lifetime. It's going to continue too because humans fucking suck. You know, we tend to fuck up the habitat of a lot of these things. I think it's likely that Bigfoot went extinct at some point between the 70s and the 90s. You know, a lot of the shit we heard about Bigfoot in the 90s as being like current reports might have been from like the 70s, and they were just now being put out in the mainstream. You still hear modern Bigfoot reports, but I do believe a lot of them are like mistaking black bears and shit like that for Bigfoot.
Oh, it broke my heart when that original video that guy took turned out to be a faked video. Actually, just like the original.
They've never definitively proven that, though. You know, you still have all these. Well, the one dude that claimed to be the guy in the suit did. You know.
Yeah. Now I know
nobody involved in it actually did.
Now I know the Loch Ness Monster, the guy who took that photo.
That's for sure fake. Like
yeah, that one
100%. Yeah. You know, but the Bigfoot thing, there's still some question with that. Like, you know, the Patterson footage could still be legit. It's just some guy that says he was the dude in the suit came out to debunk it. Bigfoot's, the whole thing's been full of weird hoaxes. So there's an equal chance that that guy's hoaxing his involvement in it, as there is that the thing was a hoax to begin with. I mean, see, all the weirdos that got involved with Bigfoot shit is what's made it so unbelievable now, too. I was a lifelong believer, and I think I might have even had my own Bigfoot possible encounter at one point. But I still will always resist saying definitively that Bigfoot is out there because I don't know for sure. I mean, okay, like Lena and me both said, it's out there or it has been out there. But I don't know. I don't know if it's still a thing.
How do we know that Bigfoot is not the driving force behind our government?
Could be.
Yeah.
Maybe he's in there working Joe Biden with some levers or something. I don't know what's going on. But he should probably sort it out, man. You've fallen a long way since those Jack Links commercials. What the fuck's going on? But he's definitely not an alien. I mean, it's just like clearly like a more advanced monkey. So I think no matter which way you swing it.
Well, this one in this film was a special kind of Sasquatch, as he's more of an ape squatch. He's
but I mean,
ape than the typical Sasquatch.
If you want to get right down to it, that still makes it the same species. It's just a different variant of the species. It's like a rainbow trout versus a brook trout or something like that, you know. Same thing, just different coloration. They look a little bit different because they live in different, you know, elements. Or largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, although there is like larger physical characteristics that differentiate the two. So I guess, I don't know, when it comes down to the effects, what did you think of those? There's not much to be had in there. I mean, my note is could have used more gore or at least some splatter, like I said. Nice arm rip. Lack of bloodshed doesn't necessarily hurt the film that bad, but it would have been a nice inclusion.
Yeah, he mostly just breaks necks, I've noticed in the movie. But, you know, I mean, I feel like more splatter, less fart jokes probably would have gone a long way. But at the same time, it wasn't necessary. The film got its point across. I didn't feel like there was a loss greatly on it. But yeah, for me, my favorite special effect is one we've already talked about, and that was the cardboard feet.
Maybe the best special effect we've seen in a while, actually. So what about the music? I mean, I kind of shared my thoughts on it already. I think it's somewhere between Home Alone and a porno with occasional like horror movie stings. I think it works really well for the film. I think the movie wouldn't really be the same without it. I think the lighthearted Home Alone style score adds a lot to the whimsical fun of the movie. It looks like he's having a coughing fit. We're all under the weather, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's new COVID or just general fall time sickness, but
yeah, the music to me, it's. I mean, I did get that kind of porno feel to it at parts, but overall, I didn't really. What's the word? I didn't really note the music, other than those times where like,
See, I did because it had that whimsical, like I said, Home Alone like score through most of it. I can't even credit myself for coming up with that connection. I mean, I just knew the score was weird, and then I looked at like, online comments, and someone, as soon as they mentioned Home Alone, I was like, yes, that's what it is. It's that whimsical, like, slightly creepy but festive piano crawl, strange, thing going on there that Home Alone has. And it does add a lot to the movie. I think it makes it the lightheartedness of it would have still came across without that score, but I think it adds to it, and I think that was intentional, which is something I can't say a lot of the times for these like micro budget B movies. Half the time it's just some score they slap on there. They don't give a shit,
And I need to now go and do a Home Alone marathon. Well, I'll do that in December. I always sit down and I watch all of them, even the bad ones, back to back. And I need to get like a physical copy of the new one, even though there is no official means of getting it. But there is something about it that just like, that's great for a binge watch session, especially on like a snowy day, like where you're just sitting there sick because of all the cold and the wet, and you just watching it, drinking some chicken soup, that whole deal.
I guess I could see that. I've never watched Beyond Home Alone 3, so.
Oh, well, you talk about schlock. I could definitely say that 4, 5, and 6 are all schlock. To the point of, man, they put money behind this at all?
Yeah, it sounds fucking terrible, man. Sets, again, I feel like none of them were fabricated as far as like sets and productions design in this. Like, it felt like they shot all this in like actual people's houses, which lends a coziness to it, as I mentioned earlier. There's something about it that really makes it feel like, you're in an actual neighborhood.
I noticed that when we're in a Polonia film, we get to know, if you're a Polonia fan, you get to know what Mark Polonia's house looks like, because he uses his house a lot. I don't know if he used it in this scene. It didn't look like it.
It felt like just someone's house. It didn't feel like his house.
Because I know they use his house a lot, but I don't think in this case.
I think, it does add that cozy atmosphere, but I think it is also maybe, and it's a bummer Cody's not back for this yet, but I think it is maybe why we don't get a bunch of like gore and splatter in this, because they weren't trying, and we get the paper, big footprints, because they were using like other people's houses. So they're not trying to fuck them up with like fake blood and dirt and different things like that. So
that stuff's hard to get out of a carpet.
Yeah, so they just opted for the safe route of really not using much blood and fabricating the Bigfoot prints, and that's fine, But yeah, I thought the production design was good on this, honestly, because I've seen Polonia movies where they're using like micro budget sets for like the command rooms and stuff like that, and it does take you out of the movie a little bit, But this having like seemingly all real sets really did add a special quality to it that I think made it feel more wholesome and like warm and kind of fun. So,
oh yeah, most definitely.
Overall, I think it's a lot of fun. Like I said, it's definitely a movie that I'm going to be buying in the near future and revisiting with the family on occasion.
I'm trying to think. Is it? What is it looking like now? I know what they do with SRS is that they do these they do these limited like Blu-ray releases, then they do the the DVD release or something like that. Let me see. Nope, they still have House Squatch Blu-ray on sale there, which is good.
There you go.
That is a positive. That is a positive thing. Glad to see it. They even have the poster available. So, if you really want the poster, I mean, that's a good question.
All right, so Cody, we still need your thoughts on music, sets / production design, and just your overall final opinion.
I mean, music. I don't remember anything from it, which I guess would be not necessarily a bad thing.
It's crazy. Why did I hone in so hard on that soundtrack?
It didn't.
I don't know.
It didn't take away from the movie or add to it, I guess, since I didn't think too much of it. I know as far as the exterior stuff, I mean that was Mark's house. I know that little shed, that's his. So I would assume.
Oh, there you go.
I would assume that they filmed inside of his house since they did outside of his house, but I could be wrong. And you and I touched on earlier when Mo wasn't on there. I think that's probably why they decided to do the cutout footprints, because they didn't want to mess up his house or anyone else's, and then it's a lot easier when you don't have to worry about cleaning anything up if you're just snapping necks.
I agree.
Maybe it's not as exciting to do that every single time, but if you're not wanting a big cleanup, it's definitely the easiest way to go.
Yeah, B-movie status, it makes the most sense. So overall, I mean, what would you say to somebody that, hasn't seen this? I would hope everybody that has watched this point has seen it, but if you had to recommend it to somebody in terms of like placement in a Polonia marathon, where would you put it?
I would say if you're disgruntled with some of the recent stuff or just haven't watched any of the recent stuff, if you are looking for a Polonia movie that's not trying to be serious or scary or whatever, I think this is a very safe bet to introduce yourself or reintroduce yourself to the more modern Polonia movies.
I feel like that's fair.
I'd tell people do a shark house Squatch back to back and just enjoy it. That would be my thought. Just to say, is like if you like the first part, then you'll like the second, and I think they go together quite well.
Yeah.
I usually, when I'm trying to introduce someone to Polonia, which has only happened twice because I've only met 2 people that were worthy, but you pretty much just show them Splatter Farm, and then you show them Feeders 1 and 2. And I guess that's it. Yeah, that's kind of where I've always left them. You just watch those 3. John McBride is kind of Polonia adjacent to me, so I tend to also show people Cannibal Campout, Wood Chip Massacre as well. So if you're trying to get into early 90s SOB, you can't go wrong with doing like the Polonia trilogy and then those 2 John McBride movies.
Well, they've done stuff together too, right?
Yeah, I think Feeders
he's in the first Feeders, yeah.
Yeah, no, that was like co-directed by him and the Polonias as well.
I think, also some of the Polonia Camp Blood stuff, not all of it, but some of it, because I think 7 was Polonia. And Camp Blood 7 is not a terrible place to start with Polonia. Not 3, but 7
3 is abysmal.
Is good. It's actually shows some early Polonia contacts with several of now regulars there, including Kyle. So it's actually a good place to start with modern Polonia, in my opinion. especially if you're a Camp Blood fan. So that's a good way of getting you into it if you're a modern Camp Blood fan. if you're a Camp Blood fan because of like 3, 4, and 5, well, I think any Camp Blood film will be probably a great film for you. As
Nowhere to go but up.
Ugh, that's gross. If you're a fan of because of those movies, just don't subscribe. I think that closes the book on House Shark, though, and not House Shark, House Squatch. Excuse me.
We'll hit our shark one of these days.
We
Did
will.
Did we do favorite scenes?
That's what we're about to get to now.
Okay,
You guys got a favorite character, favorite scene from the movie?
You go ahead, Brandon.
Let's see. I am not sure. There's a lot of good ones. I guess I don't know what it is about it, but I do love the introduction to the two women walking around with her talking about the mask and then getting in there, and then they have that scene where they both promise him a lap dance for staying in the house. I don't know. It's just a fun thing all the way around for me. I just enjoy it.
Not gonna lie, I was looking forward to the lap dance and was kind of bummed when it didn't happen.
The old bait and
I
switch.
thought for sure there was going to be exactly a bait and switch where it was the dude getting lap danced and then the house squatch would kill him and then the house squatch would get lap danced. And with Jamie Morgan in there, it's going to be a good one. So, I don't know. What about you, Cody? Favorite character, favorite scene?
I'm going to go favorite character is Titus's. I think I really liked him in this movie. Favorite scene, I'm going to pick 2. I'm going to cheat. It's either got to be the chasing the Squatch with the net montage because that was just fantastic, or the whole Western showdown with damn house Squatch. You didn't even wait for the music to end. That's not how it works, asshole.
Yes.
That's my favorite scene for sure, and my favorite character is Baxter. Definitely, Baxter. Favorite character, favorite scene, the house squatch chase. It's just so stupid and awesome. So, yeah, definitely check this out. We got some other cool stuff coming up in the near future. We're going to be doing our review of, Herschel Gordon Lewis's Blood Feast. So that's something that you guys can definitely look forward to. I guess we'll run our closing statements while we let these guys observe this delicious poster. Brandon, you got anything that people need to look forward to?
Actually, next week will be the first film I've done that's a feature film. It's a documentary about Anhedonia Films and my involvement with them, which I'm calling the Anhedonia Project. It should be going live on Anhedonia Films Unlimited next week, and the trailer is on my channel on YouTube. For those of you who've been wondering why my channel has been dark, well, that and the fact that I'm using most of my time helping Dave with his film right now. But otherwise, yep, that's my whole of it. Not a small thing, because it's also going to be getting a DVD release in the future as well. So for those of you physical media people, it's going to be coming to that eventually.
About you, Cody? You got anything going on?
I am heading back down to Dallas next week to put the finishing touches on Camp Blood 9 and also a extra project that we are going to be working on while we're down there.
Mm.
Nice. That's pretty fucking exciting. Look forward to hearing about more of that when you can, publicly talk about it. I don't really have anything going on other than full moon discussions and hanging out with my lady. So we're going to be doing a general full moon discussion here in a few. Should be pretty cool. Other than that, we have nothing going on. You guys will see us in 2 weeks for our coverage of Blood Feast, which we're going to run the trailer for you right now. And then most likely the next time you'll see us is during our Schlockaholics segment, where we're going to be talking about Braxis with Jesse Ventura of WWF.
The body.
So,
Woo!
right now, you guys are going to check out the trailer for Blood Feast, and hopefully me and Cody and these dudes are going to talk for a couple of minutes off air. Here it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to witness some scenes from the next attraction to play this theater. This picture, truly one of the most unusual ever filmed, contains scenes which under no circumstances should be viewed by anyone with a heart condition or anyone who is easily upset. We urgently recommend that if you are such a person or the parent of a young or impressionable child now in attendance, that you and the child leave the auditorium for the next 90 seconds.
Let's go weapons free for this fucking preview, man. You see how greasy that guy's face was? Unmute your mics.
Ow.
You pulled a real cow tongue out of her mouth right there.
Well, probably to her benefit. That would be something she'd choke on later.
Hey, it's a good batch of tacos they can make later on. After they're done, they dose that thing up. That's me and Cody right there. Nothing so appalling in the annals of horror.
For
not my annals. Look at her hair. That's the thing I always think about every time I see this.
Right of frame March something.
One day I want to see them remove a heart and it just be like Valentine's Day heart shape.
I feel like that has to have happened. I fucking love this movie, dude. Even the music is getting me nostalgic. It's a shame we didn't get to see his eyebrows, but you guys will be stoked when you finally get to see them.
Soon enough.
Well, once again, we'd just like to thank you guys for watching. I've been Mosley. He has been Septum Sin. That has been Cody. And we've been the Schlockaholics. We'll see you back here next time.
Ooh, baby.